Hey, boys and girls, it is Monday, May 18th. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. I hope you had a great weekend. Beautiful day on Saturday, rainy day on Sunday. But it looks like we're going to have a fantastic week weather-wise. So keep joining in. We'll do our read-alouds, we'll do all of that good stuff, and then you can still get some time in and play. And I hope you guys can enjoy the weather. So let's take a look at what we've got for this week. Minnie Mouse wants to remind you to make sure that you are taking a look at the new Learning X opportunities on IXL for math and reading. I'll post them in math. Miss Summerfeld will post them in reading, but take a look at those learning opportunities so that you guys can do the correct ones in IXL. Hangout at 10 o'clock. Got a special guest I think you guys will be really excited for on Thursday. So make sure you tune in on Thursday. Special guest I think you guys will really like. Free lunch and breakfast up at the high school. Let me know if you have any questions, and make sure you guys are staying safe and staying home. As far as the academics go, make sure that you're taking a look at Prodigy and IXL. I'll talk about the new IXL ones in a second here. Reading. Make sure you guys are reading an AR book at home. Keep taking those AR tests. IXL as well. Miss Summerfeld will post those. Check out my new video in social studies. I think you'll like it. And then pay attention. There'll be lots of new posts on Monday today. About Phi music, art, and guidance. So take a look at those in Dojo as well. Just like usual, there's new IXL opportunities on Mondays. So take a look at these are the new ones. Division is word problems. So similar to last week, but now it's got word problems. So you just have to figure out what the divisor is, where you're dividing things at. But it shouldn't be too much worse than what it was last week. So mixed operations, these are deciding whether it's going to be addition or multiplication. So you have to decide whether we're talking about sets of something or just one thing. Whether we're going to add them together to make a total, or we're going to figure out if they have sets. So take a look at that one. Data and graphs, line plots, we talked a lot about those. Just remember the big thing that a lot of kids struggle with is whether it's the most frequent thing or the biggest thing. Those are two different things. Fractions and equivalences, comparing things that are denominators of 10 or 100. So when we talk about something that is 1/10, that's going to be equal to 10 100ths, that kind of thing. Just making sure you know the difference between whether the denominator is a tenth or a hundredth and comparing those, right? So that's what that one's all about. And then two-dimensional figures, whether they're parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting. So remember, parallel lines are like L's or train tracks. Those are parallel. Perpendicular is the exact opposite, where they meet at a 90-degree angle. And lines that intersect just cross. So those would be those. And I do have videos going over all of these if you check out the math section. So take a look at those, and you can look at those to make sure that they can help you with those. So I'll also have a video, but take a look at the ones in Dojo to help you as well. Shredderman, Meet the Gecko is our story. We pick up with Nolan being very nervous at school, and Bubba having a really hard time at school dealing with things. In fact, they all thought he was crying. So chapter 17, Alvin emerges. And usually that's a interesting statement because usually Nolan refers to him as Bubba, not Alvin. So we'll see what happens here. When school lets out, I followed Bubba to the bike racks. My heart was beating like crazy. I got on the other side of the racks, looked right at him, and said, "I can take you to meet the gecko." He stopped pulling his bike back. "What?" I cleared my throat. I said, "I can take you to meet the gecko." He squinted at me, then snorted, and yanked his bike the rest of the way out of the rack. "Quit pulling my chain, nerd." I followed him as he headed for the street. "I'm serious. He said I could come back today. I'll take you with me." Bubba stopped and looked at me like I ate flies. Finally, he said, "Why?" I shrugged. "Because I'd like to." "Shut up, nerd. You expect me to believe that?" "I'm serious. I'll go get my bike. We can ride over to Old Town together." He just stared at me. "Wait here," I told him. "I'll be right back." I tore home, told my mom where I was going, jumped on my bike, and raced back to school. Remember, Nolan lives right across the street from school. Bubba was still there. "Come on," I shouted as I coasted past him. "Let's go." Bubba Bixby may be big and mean and full of teeth and ready to bite, but he's not very fast on a bike. I had to stop and wait for him at least 3 times. Bubba looks like he's working pretty hard. And the whole way there, he didn't say one word to me. Not one. We parked our bikes at the rack in front of Old Town, and when we were walking over to the hotel, I told him, they're probably going to recognize you from yesterday, so just let me handle it, okay? He nodded. His cheeks were like Macintosh apples, and he was dripping sweat. He still didn't say a word. At the hotel, we stopped by a security guard. I told him, "The gecko, Chase Morton invited us." "Oh, right," he said sarcastically. He squinted at Bubba, saying, "Didn't I specifically invite you to not come back?" Bubba looked down. So I said, "He's with me today. I'm Nolan Bird. Ask Chase. He'll tell you it's all right." The guard said. "Or Henna Blockwell. She knows it's okay." He studied me a minute. Then he got on his walkie-talkie radio. 5 minutes later, Henna showed up and let us in. "Hi, Nolan. Chase told me that if you showed up to send you upstairs. Apparently he's got some new move to wipe you out in Tekken 3. She looked at her watch and said, "He's only got about 10 minutes before it's his call time." She noticed that Bubba was following along. Nolan?" she whispered. "Isn't he the boy who ruined the take yesterday?" I nodded. "I don't think we can." "Please, Miss Blockwell. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's important. And if we've only got 10 minutes, I shrugged. "Please?" She looked from me to Bubba and back again. Finally, she sighed and said, "Well, come along." Chase was sitting cross-legged on his bed. His thumbs were flying on the PlayStation controller. "Nolan," he said when he saw me. "My man." He tossed me a second controller. "I'm going to wipe you out." We entered a battle. I was Yoshimitsu green. He was Yoshimitsu red. And we had totally mastered backflips. And the death copter trick. And samurai cutter. He was even using slap you silly. Whoa. But I managed to slash and bash and dance all around him. It was close, but I won the second round. "How'd you do that?" Chase cried. "Man," Bubba mumbled, "you're good." "Huh?" Chase said, finally noticing Bubba. "Hey," he squinted at him. "How'd you get in here?" I brought him," I said. "You're friends with that guy?" Chase asked, his eyebrows flying up. "Well, I looked at Bubba. "Not exactly." So Chase was starting to look annoyed, maybe even mad. I brought him because I thought it was a nice thing to do." I looked down and said, "It's a long story and really complicated. Don't be mad, okay?" "Okay," Chase said, studying me. Then he nodded and stuck out his hand to Bubba. "I'm Chase Morton." He wiggled his eyebrows. "The gecko." Bubba shook his hand. "I'm Bub," he said. Then he stopped himself. "I'm Alvin Bixby." He started pumping Chase's hand like crazy. "Your #1 fan." "Well, hey, Alvin. Nice to officially meet you." Then Chase eyed me and asked him, "Do you think your friend here will let me whip you in Tekken 3? I looked at Bubba. Bubba looked at me. And it was weird. He didn't even seem like Bubba. He seemed like an oversized toddler. I held out the controller to him and he grinned. "Go easy on him. He's just a superhero." Bubba laughed and took my place at the bed. "You gonna be Yoshimitsu again?" he asked Chase. "You bet. You?" "Nah," Bubba said. "I choose True Ogre. He's rad." "Ho ho ho," Chase laughed, and the battle began. Chapter 18. Out of Control. Yoshimitsu clobbered True Ogre. But what do you expect when a gargoyle with flame breath takes on a Minya ninja? And Bubba didn't even seem to care. He said, "Do you want to go again?" Chase would have, but Henna came in and made them stop. So Chase made Henna get Bubba a poster that Chase autographed and signed, to Alvin Bubba Bixby, who rocks at Tekken 3. And since no visitors were allowed on the set, we had to leave the building. But not before I took one quick picture of Bubba and Chase with my digital camera. When we were unlocking our bikes, I asked Bubba, "You got email?" Like I didn't know. Then I added, "I'll download the picture to you and the gecko and send it to you." He frowned a minute, then said, "Bixby@bignet.com. He pulled his bike from the rack and stared at me. For a guy who had just met the gecko, he sure wasn't looking too friendly. He stood there a minute like he was trying to figure out how to say something, but it never came out. And finally, he just swung onto his bike and left. No see you later, no see ya, no wave, just took off. So I took off too, only I went a different way. And I wondered what Bubba was trying to say. Thanks? Nah, more likely, don't think this makes us friends, nerd. Like I would want to be. Or don't go thinking you can email me, geek. Too late for that. I'd been emailing him for months. As Shredder Man. So I was thinking about how I would use my parents' email system to mail Bubba the picture, but the minute I got home, I forgot all about Bubba. My mom was screaming, Nolan, come here quick!" I dropped my backpack and charged for the kitchen. "Mom, what's wrong, Mom?" "In here," she yelled from the family room. "Look!" Her eyes were cranked open. Her jaw dropped to the floor. She was tearing apart her purse, trying to find her phone. But she wasn't looking at what she was doing. She was looking at the TV. "What's wrong, Mom? What's..." And then I heard the voice from the television say, "Shredder Man." Two newscasters were talking about me on TV. "It's everywhere," the man was saying to the lady next to him. "I got an email this morning, and you got it last night. Everyone in the industry seems to have a copy of Joel Bull vandalizing that hotel." He shuffled through some papers in the story and up in Cedar Valley. The lady was nodding. "I've heard the hotel and the production company are planning to press charges." "So this might be the mole's last digging spree?" the man asked. "I, for one, hope so." The lady grinned in the camera and said, "Meanwhile, good work, Shredder Man, whoever you are." "Yeah," the man added. "And what's the motto of his?" "Truth and justice, yours in truth and justice." "Exactly." The man turned to the camera and said, "And now to Bill McLeod, who hopefully has some truth and justice to convey to us about in the weather." Mom had found her cell phone. She muted the TV and pressed buttons on her phone with her thumbs. "That was the news out of Los Angeles," she whispered to me. Then she said into the phone, Steven, you are never going to believe what was just on Channel 5. Wow. If it had been on Los Angeles TV, where else had it been? I charged down my room to check my email. While I had worried about surviving the day at school, stuff had been happening. People had been talking, sending my clip around. Cedar Valley and the Historian had been on the big city news. I booted up, dialed up the internet, checked my mail. Flick, flick, flick. Email sprang up from the bottom of my inbox. Flick, 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 flick. Flick, 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 flick. My screen was going crazy. Messages were flying in, scrolling off the screen faster than I could read who they were from. I watched them for a whole minute. 2. I got out of my chair and backed up. Whoa, they were still flying in. Finally, I clicked send and receive, and there was a blue line, only partway done, and the message said receiving 302 out of 927 messages. 927 messages? 303, 304, 305, 306. The ones column and the spinning around like the cents counter on a gas pump. Who were all these people? Mom wandered in my room without knocking. That happens when you leave the door wide open. She was still on her phone attached to her ear. She was making little sounds into it, fragmented sentences. Nuh-hus and uh-hus, hissing and tisking noises. Then all of a sudden, she gasped like she'd spotted Tyrannosaurus Rex in my room. I jumped and looked around. No T-Rex. Phew. He's got 927 messages, she whispered into the phone. Steven, this is totally out of control. Her eyes were enormous. Uh-huh, okay, all right. I don't know, okay. Uh-huh, all right. Call back when you can. She flipped the phone closed and sat on the edge of my bed. Nolan, your dad won't be home for a while. Uh-huh. I was scrolling through the messages. Dad worked late a lot. The Gazette's been flooded with calls about Shredder Man. I looked at her. Really? And since your father is supposedly spearheading the investigation into who Shredder Man is, he's having to steer people the wrong direction. I grinned at her. Cool. Cool? Yeah, it's great that Dad can help out like that. But he's turning out to be a pretty good sidekick, huh? Sidekick? Nolan, he's your father. Who's being a pretty good sidekick? I was still grinning. My dad is a sidekick. Something about the idea seemed really cool. Mr. Green's your sidekick, remember? She was looking a little miffed. But Mr. Green's in Oregon, and Dad's been real helpful, you know? But call him a substitute sidekick if you want. I don't want you to call him any kind of sidekick. He's a reporter, and he's not supposed to lie or cover up or... Her phone rang, interrupted her. She flipped it open. Yes? I was really busy racing through the messages. People love Shredder Man. She listened, then whispered, CNN? What did you tell them? CNN? National news? That got my attention. Tonight? She was saying. Wow, they work fast. Okay, yes, I will. No, don't worry. I'm keeping him right here. She was about to hang up, but the last minute asked, Hey, what are your thoughts on being called a substitute sidekick? She laughed and rolled her eyes, then hung up. What did he say? I asked. He said, Cool. Chapter 19, National News. So Nolan's work has been recognized on the national stage. And we'll read about that tomorrow. Put up a couple pictures of some other read-alouds that we've done to kind of cover up the text so you guys can at least see the title. So make sure you've taken your AR test on those, and we're going to finish this story eventually, probably this week. But we can go from there. So a really big day in Shredder Man. Not only is Nolan doing something really nice for Alvin Bixby, but he's getting recognized on the national stage for all that he's doing as Shredder Man. So pretty interesting stuff. We'll see what happens out of that tomorrow, and we'll go from there. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys enjoy the weather that's coming up, and keep tuning in. I'll give you guys the updates. Check out my math videos as well. If you need any help, please let me know, and I can try to do that. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll look back for you here tomorrow. Have a great one, guys. Bye.